Performance was crazy like we accept. I knew it's gonna be finished, but I wanted to wait, so don't say that. But I was right. I like we accepted, you know. So Arman is the best, so he's the number one. He's the champion. He's the athlete. So I believe this guy is one of the best fighters in the world. He has to fight for them.
Your last submission win, I think, like 8 years ago, but today we saw a new one. Is that Hamzat effect? Did you guys train for submission or just it's randomly?
Hamzat, yeah, when Hamzat's in your corner, wrestling is in another level.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just only guy on me contract. I'll be there.
Okay, so here's the thing, guys. This is actually a gift from the gods for the UFC. Like, this has all worked out so perfectly for them because, look, Ilya hasn't fought since June. He should be ready to go. Paddy very clearly is ready to go. He hasn't fought since April, his win over Michael Chandler. The best way, we continue to say, of the people available, the best way to debut the Paramount Plus era in 2026, first show of 2026, rumored to be at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, January 24th. I'm calling it a PLE numbered event. You know, they're going to keep those, title fights on the number of events we suspect. The best way to start this is Ilya versus Paddy. You just had Arman win, look good. He's now the number one guy. He's waiting in the wings. You bring him out there, and yet you keep this train rolling along. I'm sorry, there is zero momentum towards a Justin Gaethje title fight against Ilia Topuria. And now that Arman did what he did, I think he completely knocked Justin out of the way. There is zero interest, zero momentum. I would sign up for Arman versus Ilya right now. But I think you have Paddy there. You want to strike while the iron is hot. He's ready to go. He hasn't fought since April. It's going to be almost a year since his last fight by the time this January date comes along. Do Ilya versus Paddy. You saw the little run-in. You see the animosity there. Do that in January. Have Arman in the front row. He fights the winner. And now the lightweight division is back rolling like it was when Islam was champ. What do you think, Chuck?
I went up to Sarukian. I congratulated him. I went up to Kamzat. I said, hey, champ, what's up? When are we going to see you back? He goes, I don't know, brother. Whenever. Smash. All right, cool. Sweet. Slaps me on the back. I'm like, all right, cool. Security guy gets in front of us. I'm like, we literally were just cool with each other. He's not going to fight me. And then that childish energy comes out. Yeah, fuck you, brother. Fuck you. Boom. Tries to push me. I just turned around and went, you're meant to be a champion of this sport. You're a child. You're taken away from your friend's win over here. How about you calm down, slow down, and have a bit of respect for your friend over here rather than trying to steal the headlines. Do you want the honest truth? It's little dick energy. I need to show the world I'm tough. I need to show you're the champion of the world. No one needs to see you be tough. You don't need to have these anger management issues. Just be a man. Sorry. I'll get him one day. We're all going to try grab a hold of my legs. Born little. I'm not going to get. Don't get me started.
Pull out of that fight. Arman is big. Man, he's big. When I stand next to him, I cannot believe he makes 155. He's very muscular, very dense, and very lean. And so for him to make 155.
Now that the fight is finally over and the winner has been announced, it's time to rewind a bit and check out what the UFC experts predicted. Dan Hooker versus Arman Tsarukyan had everyone talking before they even stepped into the cage, and the buildup was packed with bold takes. Let's see who actually called it right. Starting with Michael Bisping leaned towards Arman, while highlighting how well-rounded he was as a fighter. He mentioned that Tsarukyan could strike, grapple, and had good finishes on his record. Bisping emphasized that Tsarukyan was still young, in his prime, and on a strong winning streak. He made it clear that this wasn't going to be a one-sided fight, suggesting that Tsarukyan's versatility would be a key factor in how the fight played out.
But Arman Tsarukyan, we know what he can do. The man can do it all. Literally, he's a very, very well-rounded mixed martial arts, and he is in his absolute prime. He's only 28 years old with a professional record of 22 wins and 3 losses. Those 3 losses, one of them was to Mateusz Gamrot that Dan Hooker did beat, and of course he lost his UFC debut to Islam Makhachev that he took on short notice, and he still gave Islam a really good run for his money. Outside of those 2 losses, the man's been absolutely flying and finishing a lot of people. Finished Joel Alvarez, put a beat down on Joel Alvarez, who's doing tremendous things. I finished Beneil Dariush in a stunning combination. It was a knee to punches, a flying knee I think it was, and then some punches. Then he beat Charles Oliveira by split decision at UFC 300, and that should have been when he got to fight for the belt. But of course, as we know, he injured his back, he struggled to make weight. Whatever the case may be, he got sidelined for a bit. Well, he's coming back in Qatar, and he's the main event.
Ali Abdelaziz talked about this matchup with a mix of confidence and old frustration. He kept saying he felt Arman was on a higher level and that the gap between them was bigger than people realized. When Hooker came up, he mentioned past moments that still bothered him, things that made it hard for him to look at Hooker the same way he looked at other fighters.
I'm telling you, I think Arman is gonna beat the shit out of Dan Hooker. My opinion. I don't have nothing against the guy, but I just think it's a level to this game, and I think Arman is on a completely different level than Hooker.
Do you respect him? At least he's taking the Arman fight, right? No one wanted.
I don't
to fight.
respect Dan Hooker because he lied. He lied about Islam and IV shit, and I don't think he should have did that. But I don't have nothing against him, But I respect him as a man, no, because he lied. This whole Australia bullshit, that was a lie.
At the same time, he acknowledged that Hooker was tough. He said Hooker had been through hard fights and always showed up ready, and he gave him credit for stepping in against someone as dangerous as Arman. Even with that respect, he hinted that he expected the fight to go in one direction.
But in a way, I don't, also when he fought Islam smashed him, and I get it. He have to ride with his team and stuff, but he's a liar. But personally, do I have anything against? No. But I respect is something you have to be like, I respect, like Izzy, Azrael Adesanya, I respect him. Volk, I respect him. Some certain guys I just respect. But when you start lying about people to stay relevant, keep your name in, I don't think it's really cool. But listen, I respect him. He's taking a fight against Arman. He have nothing to lose, really, but I think Arman is just going to torture him.
Toward the end, he softened a bit. He talked about how fighters did whatever they needed to support their families, and how he never wished anything bad on Hooker outside the cage.
You know what? Islam's turning the page on him. Maybe you guys will be friends sometimes too. But you never know. The Gamrot fight in Perth, he beat Gamrot. Who knows? Maybe he can make that happen.
Listen, he's tough, man. He's tough. He's game. He's
veteran. He's a veteran.
He's a warrior.
Yeah.
Listen, he's not no bitch. I can tell you that. Dan Hooker is not no bitch, but I know this whole IV thing was a lie, and why would you do that? Like, you lie, but it is what it is, man. I wish him nothing but the best. I wish nothing bad on him and his family. He's just working so hard to make a living for his family, and I'm not gonna.
Jamahal Hill talked about the fight in a very straightforward way. He said he knew what Arman was going to do once the fight started. He explained that Arman didn't care about putting on a show or making the fight exciting. He would focus on his plan and stick to it, moving through the rounds without worrying about entertaining the fans. Hill suggested that unless something dramatic happened early, the fight might not have a lot of fireworks. He also compared the two fighters' styles and pointed out that Dan liked exciting, action-packed fights and wanted to please the fans. But Arman had a different mindset, one that didn't revolve around showmanship. Hill hinted that if Dan couldn't make an early impact, the fight could feel slow or methodical, leaving the result more about strategy than flashy moments.
Arman, because you already know what he's gonna do. Because he don't give a shit about the fight being exciting. Dan Hooker likes good fights. He likes exciting fights. Dan likes to please the fans. Likes to please you. Arman don't give a fuck about that, bro. He's gonna come out and grab you. He's gonna drive until the end of until the bell rings. So he don't care. He don't care about making it exciting. That fight, unless Dan hits him with something early and hurts him and can make him kind of have to fight through some adversity, It's gonna be a boring ass fight.
Beneil Dariush spoke about the fight in a very practical way. He said it was hard to pick against Arman and didn't see many clear advantages for Dan in this matchup. He mentioned that Dan had a lot of heart and toughness, and if the fight turned into a straight-up punching battle, Dan could shine. But he also pointed out that Arman didn't need the fight to go that way to win, which made the prediction lean strongly in Arman's favor. He made it clear that while Dan had some strengths, they were limited to certain situations. Arman's style, according to Dariush, was flexible and smart, and he could control the fight without giving Dan those opportunities.
I mean, it's tough to pick against Arman in this fight. Dan, I don't really see Dan having too many advantages in this fight. The only thing I can really think of as far as having an advantage in, I would say Dan has, you know, he's got that dog in him. So if it turns into a punching match, man, Dan's going to be great there. But I just don't think Arman necessarily needs it to be a punching match. So, yeah, I would.
Henry Cejudo predicted the fight with a clear focus on Arman's grappling. He said he saw Arman winning by submission and expected it to happen within the first 2 rounds. He explained that Arman had spent a lot of time competing in grappling events, which made him very comfortable on the ground. Cejudo hinted that Arman could use a style similar to what Islam had done against him, but in his own way.
What you say your prediction is, Arman?
Arman via submission within the first, I'll say 2 rounds.
Wow.
And this is why. This is what I'm going to tell you. Arman has been competing, grappling. He's been doing all these events to where he feels very, very comfortable. And if you study the game, and if you saw what Islam was able to do to him, he can say, I could replicate that, but in a different style, in a different way. So, yeah, I will say Arman Tsarukyan within 2 rounds. Submission.
Kamaru Usman spoke about the fight by balancing respect for both fighters. He said Arman had a real chance to finish Dan, but he also reminded that Dan was extremely tough and could upset expectations, just like he did against Mateus Gamrot. Usman highlighted that a strong performance from Arman could put him in a prime spot for future title opportunities. He also talked about Arman's talent and toughness, emphasizing that winning this fight could move him closer to the top of the division.
No, Henry, but before we even go into all that, first, I think you're right in the sense where if Arman Tsarukyan goes out there and finishes Dan Hooker, which is possible, but at the same time, Dan Hooker is extremely tough, and Dan Hooker can spoil the party. He did for Mateus Gamrot. So if Arman Tsarukyan is able to go out there and do that, he kind of puts himself on this place where he's on a short list of because he did have the title shot. And then he unfortunately, whatever happened, he didn't make weight or his back went out, whatever happened, he didn't get that shot. And so now you're in a position to where you could potentially get the shot. So I do believe he's extremely talented, and I think Arman is extremely talented.
Michael Aswell shared his thoughts on the fight between Arman Tsarukyan and Dan Hooker and leaned toward Tsarukyan taking the win. He said Tsarukyan was a beast and a monster in the cage, and he highlighted that the fighter had been training hard with top coaches at Santos Studios. Aswell noted that he had met some of Tsarukyan's team at Jackson's, and he clearly respected the preparation and skill set he had built. Even though he leaned toward Tsarukyan, he didn't dismiss Hooker, pointing out that Hooker was as game as they come and could make things tricky if he executed his plan well.
Fight, bro. I think I see Arman winning that. He's a beast, bro. He's a monster, man. Regardless of all the noise and stuff, you know. I think he's been training with Chimaev and over there at Santos Studios. We actually got to meet some of them boys over there at Jackson. So yeah, I'll probably root for Arman. But Hooker's game, man. He's as game as they get. So it'll be interesting to see if what he does. If he's been talking, so let's see if he starts to throw some hands.
So you're rooting for Arman, but you think he wins?
Yeah, both.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say I think most people are picking him, but yeah.
Rooting for him, man. I think he wins. I just think he has more tools.
Mitch Raposo talked about the fight and said it was a tough matchup. He admitted that Tsarukyan's wrestling and grappling made him a real challenge, but he pointed out that Hooker had already handled a relentless grappler like Mateus Gamrot, showing he could get back to his feet and fight for every inch. Even though he thought Tsarukyan might have the edge and could probably win, Raposo said he was rooting for Hooker.
I like Dan Hooker, so I hope he wins, but I mean, it's a tough matchup, obviously. Arman's wrestling and grappling, but Dan beat Gamrot, dude. So I mean, Gamrot is as like annoying as it is. I feel like for a grappler, like he's just gonna keep shooting. And Dan, I feel like really like was real good at just getting back to his feet, fighting the hands, and just like fought for every like inch, which is like so important against those guys. So probably Arman.
James Lynch compared the fighting styles and tendencies of both fighters and mentioned that both men often went the distance and weren't huge knockout threats recently. Arman had some finishes early in his career, but against tougher competition, he tended to go the distance. Hooker, despite his size and experience, had similar trends. Lynch suggested this could mean the fight might be a grind, likely decided by points rather than a big finish.
Suspense. I am also going to be going with Arman Tsarukyan, but I think this fight's going to be closer than people think. So a couple things. First and foremost, I know if you look at Arman's career, typically he does win a little bit more by knockout. 41% of his wins are by knockout, 9 total. He's got 8 decisions. But if you look at Dan Hooker, hasn't really been knocked out at lightweight recently. You have to go all the way back to the Michael Chandler fight in 2021. I would argue Chandler's got more power than Arman, so I don't think there's going to be much of a knockout threat. Now, it is 5 rounds. Maybe that knockout does come, but I think decision's a little bit more likely. Also add in the fact that Arman Tsarukyan has gone the distance in 3 of his last 5 fights. Dan Hooker has gone the distance in 6 of his last 10 fights. So these are 2 guys. They're very high level. They do go the distance a lot. The other thing I'd argue is that Arman, granted it was a 3-round fight, not a 5-round fight. Arman wasn't able to finish Charles Oliveira. We've seen Oliveira get finished a little.
He leaned toward Arman as the winner, but stressed that the fight would be closer than people expected. He noted that the long layoffs, Hooker's wear and tear, and both fighters' tendency to go the distance could make this main event unpredictable.
Yeah, but again, my official pick for this fight, don't think it's a huge surprise to a lot of people, is going to be Arman Tsarukyan via decision.
Brian Battle predicted that the key to this fight would be control. He felt that Arman needed to keep Dan on his back for most of the fight. If Arman failed to do that, Battle thought Dan could take over, given his unrelenting style and chaotic energy. Arman's experience and skill, however, gave him the tools to maintain that control and neutralize Dan's biggest threats. Battle suggested that if Arman executed this plan, he would likely escape with a decision. He emphasized that Dan was unpredictable and extremely dangerous when allowed to move freely, but Arman's ability to impose his strategy and keep the fight on his terms would probably be enough to secure the win. The fight, according to Battle, would hinge more on smart execution than on knockout power.
I think Arman's smart enough to know that he's got to keep Dan on his back the whole time. You know what I'm saying? If Arman can't keep Dan on his back the whole time, I got Dan winning that fight. But I think, like Arman, he's a pro. He's done as well as he has for a reason. He's gonna keep that motherfucker off of his feet because Dan is absolutely nuts. Like that's Dan's the kind of guy I would love to spar with Dan just because he just seems like a riot. You know what I mean? But with all that being said, yeah, I think Arman keeps him on his back, doesn't let him do what Dan does, and gets out.
Robert Whitaker said he liked Hooker's chances because of the weapons he had to hurt Arman, even though Hooker had faced wrestlers before. He noted that the question would be whether Hooker could land enough damage before getting controlled on the mat or tiring from repeated takedowns. Whitaker made it clear he personally leaned toward Hooker, wanting him to shock the world, while still respecting Arman's status as the favorite. These were the predictions from the experts before the fight, each offering their own take on how it would all play out. But now that the dust has settled, what about you? Did your favorite fighter come out on top, or did things turn out differently than you expected? Share your thoughts and tell us who you had winning in the comments below.